Joining me now is UCSF infectious disease expert, Dr. Peter Chin Hong. And doctor, as always, thanks so much for being on the program today.
Thanks for having me on, Terry.
All right. Let's talk about children and schools, the hottest topic right now. How prevalent is the virus in our schools?
Well, it depends on what district you're looking at, but it mirrors what we're seeing in the community. Again, the big theme is most of the cases in school are not from school, they're from the community. But it does lead to a lot of disruptions, both in not having enough teachers and staff, as well as students being ill and staying home. So that's kind of what we're seeing. Not that kids are getting it in school or getting really sick to go to the hospital, but rather a lot of disruption, a lot of people ill.
So where do you come down on this debate? So much evidence that staying at home, virtual learning is not good for children. And yet you want them to be safe. You don't want them to get into a situation where they're going to get COVID. Do they go to school, be in person? Do they stay at home? What would you say?
Well, I think overall, Terry, it depends on each family's risk and benefit calculus. I would say in general, the advantages far outweigh going to school in person. As you mentioned, the UN actually estimated that $17 trillion would be lost in future development of these kids overall because of the pandemic. So I think that's what's going on. Also, as I mentioned, the evidence is very consistent in saying that you don't get COVID in school. But I understand that, depending on the family, if you have risky or immunocompromised relatives at home, etc., that may change. But again, it's a fine balance. But whatever it is, we think that this surge is going to last in terms of weeks rather than months.
If you were in charge, what changes would you make to the physical classrooms? What would be a real good setting, safe setting for children?
Well, it's tough right now, but outdoors is better than indoors. If you're indoors, of course, cracking the window open, having HEPA filters, as many schools or classrooms have it, upping the mask game. We talked about that before, at least a surgical mask. For immunocompromised kids, you may want to feel better with a KN95. N95 is really tough for kids to wear for very long periods of time. And again, testing has been the bane of many people's existence frustration. But that's just one of many, many strategies that we have. The more strategies you have, the safer it is right now.
All right, Dr. Peter Chin Hong, as always, thanks so much for taking some time to be with us this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Terry.
All right.